Hey, it is Stephen Rothberg with College Recruiter here for another session of the High Volume Hiring Podcast. My guest today is a good friend of mine. Jonathan Duarte is the founder and CEO of GoHire, also a serial entrepreneur. But Jonathan, for the people who don't know you personally, maybe give them like a 1 minute. Who are you? Where do you live? What do you like to do?
So I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, started in this industry in 96, back in the OG days, started one of the first job boards, and then got married, wife and kids, and one in high school, one in college, and just love being outdoors. I've done 3 Ironman triathlons. And so it's, I guess, that endurance of sticking around helped in HR tech too.
Endurance, insanity. There are so many different words for that. So 96. So that Go Jobs, was that your site that year?
Yeah. So after Go Jobs, then we built GoHire, a small business background screening company, which you'll love this. In 2014, you could not get a background check without a 3 to 5 day wait period and faxing information to HireRight and to Sterling and all that.
Yeah.
It was still paper driven. So we changed that model to make it fast for companies.
Yeah, the days of the fax machine. My wife and I are catching up or watching for the first time The Wire. And fax machines. And if anybody has a cell phone, it's a flip phone. It's thankfully in so many ways, it's a different world.
Yeah, we'll use that analogy in high volume. It's almost like people are faxing candidates.
Yeah. And so GoHire, my shorthand descriptor, chatbot for mid-market companies, hiring for sure dozens, maybe hundreds of employees a year.
It's chatbots over web as well as text. And to most companies, the most important part is text. And using text messaging as the channel of choice for our frontline workers.
Okay. So your ideal customer is not the Fortune 100, not a massive government agency, but could be a healthcare company, a trucking company, a logistics company that maybe is over the next year or two, they're going to grow from, say, 500 to 750 employees, or 1,000 to 1,100 this year, something in that range. Is that right?
Exactly. Frontline workers. And it could be a division of a larger organization that are using their local recruiting budget for their logistics. It could be like, we've got some Fortune 500s, but we work on the manufacturing side of that business, not the massive retail or global footprint. We call it recruiting automation for HR.
Oh, that totally makes sense. Even before you and I knew each other, which was, I think Eisenhower was still president, I worked for Honeywell, which at the time was a Fortune 50 company, 80,000 employees, but it was very decentralized.
Yeah.
And so we had the automation unit and the aerospace unit. And some of those business units, I'm guessing, were a few thousand employees.
Yep.
And not high turnover. So we might have had 3,000 employees in a Phoenix-based company that maybe hired 100 to 200 a year. So a division like that would be actually a good fit for a GoHire.
So it's not the enterprise solution that's going to take 6 months to implement. It's something literally you can buy with a credit card and get started in a couple of days.
Okay, so now we're starting to get into the differences between a mid-market solution, GoHire, and an enterprise solution. So speed to implementation, that's one of them. Another one, it sounds like you might only have a single point of contact, a recruiting manager or somebody like that.
So when you compact that down, purpose built for a smaller organization, it's something that doesn't have to take 6 months to go through the IT team to get approval.
So if there's a company that's been thinking that an enterprise level solution is just too much money, too complicated for them to install, what's the expression? Hunting a fly with a bazooka. It's just overkill, right? What are some things GoHire would be offering to a regional hamburger chain that needs to hire 150 people a year?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the reality is a lot of the tech is similar. It's just the smaller business who wants to use a QR code, put signage on their building, around their manufacturing facility, and they want to be able to text candidates, they need a toll-free number. And so what you're trying to do is just say, I need manufacturing or logistics or even a seasonal hiring event. I need to spin something up quickly. And my alternative is to call a staffing firm to get me 100 people for Q4, or I need a system where I can install and hire quickly and text a bunch of people quickly to get them into the scheduled for interviews.
Cool. So from the employer's perspective, they go online, they look at GoHire, the pricing's right, the turnaround time is right, etc. They sign up with you. What are the onboarding steps? Because I think you're going to need to know from them, what questions do candidates ask? What are the answers? Is it a tree that if they enter exactly this, then return this answer? Is there some kind of, we used to call it fuzzy logic. Now people, I think, are generalizing that to call that AI. Like if the candidate doesn't type in exactly the right words, do they get an answer back? How does GoHire handle that?
Yeah, so there's two things. And so this is a great distinguishing point. In a really simple tree, we've worked with healthcare, we work with retail, we work with restaurants. Guess what? They all have the same minimum criteria. Like you have to be 18, you have to pass the drug screen, you have to have the right to work, right? So literally in our system, you can click a button to say, I'm trying to hire logistics or manufacturing. And the whole thing spins up in literally an hour. It's done. And then you can customize it. So that's how you can get out quick. And you can customize the question. So it allows our side to get the client up fast. And then they can come back and say, okay, I want to customize these questions to make them more relevant to my business. And then if they're multi-location or they need additional conditional logic, say they have 2 locations and they want different teams to get the different candidates presented to them because of the location or the category of job, then we have to customize it. But it's a week customization at max in most clients. And then the onboarding from the client is they get an onboarding email as soon as they sign up. The biggest area of implementation is a client connecting their calendar. The biggest pain point that recruiters are seeing today when I talk to directors of recruiting is that they're only talking to 15 to 20% of their candidates that apply, even into their ATS. And part of that reason is because there's manual processes. And then they have to pick up the phone or they send them an email, and we have that big drop off. So from a job board side, we're presenting candidates, yet the recruiter team, they're out there trying to herd cats and engage with these candidates. But if we're trying to use email and phone to try to reach a mobile first community, you might as well just take out your fax machine because you're going to have just as bad luck. But where you can send a candidate a text message and ask them if they fit these criteria, and then if they say yes, they meet those criteria, we connect them to your calendar and say, okay, Stephen, you've already got like these things already set up.
Yep.
What do you have for availability at 15-minute increments? Again, all customized. You have to choose those.
Yep.
But the idea is recruiting teams want qualified candidates on the phone.
Yeah.
So if you can get qualified candidates on the phone and you don't have to do all that other stuff, that's what we want.
Yeah.
So that's the technology is there for recruiters to get that now as an individual buyer, and you don't need an enterprise solution to do it.
Yeah. And then the recruiter, the recruiting manager, whoever it is that's going to get connected with that candidate, they might block off from 1 to 3 o'clock on Tuesday and 9 to 11 o'clock on Thursday, and then just let the system block individual interviews in 15-minute chunks, whatever the appropriate amount of time is. Yep. The candidate's so friendly to them because they can go through the process, decide, am I qualified? Am I not? Here's my application. They can get an interview even today or tomorrow. And then that recruiting person basically like jumps on a call, does that screening. And if it's like, hey, Jonathan, you know what? You're great, I want to schedule a full interview in the office, on Zoom, whatever. At that point, they're on the phone and they can easily compare calendars. Awesome.
Yeah, so it's that first part of that engagement is the biggest gap right now. And it's the one that costs the most time.
And the candidates, right? If you don't get back to these candidates in a week, you're going to lose it. They're already hired by someone else. And then just let the system block individual interviews in 15-minute chunks, whatever the appropriate amount of time is. The candidate's so friendly to them because they can go through the process, decide, am I qualified? Am I not? Here's my application. They can get an interview even today or tomorrow. And then that recruiting person basically like jumps on a call, does that screening. And if it's like, hey, Jonathan, you know what? You're great. I want to schedule a full interview in the office, on Zoom, whatever. At that point, they're on the phone and they can easily compare calendars.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's that first part of that engagement is the biggest gap right now. And it's the one that costs the most time.
And the candidates, right? If you don't get back to these candidates in a week, you're going to lose it. They're already hired by someone else.
Because you're trying to herd the cats. They're gone. And that's why you're only getting very few results. There's a couple of numbers that justify this stuff. Our clients that are using the interview scheduling, sending a text and asking the candidate the questions and then interviewing them, they don't follow up with email and phone anymore. Like that's done. Like that's like the fax machine. That's old. We don't do that at all. The reason why is because instead of talking to 15% of the candidates, they're talking to 82%. And it happens quick. They self-schedule in 24 hours. And then because of that speed, what's happening is you get to choose the candidates.
You don't have the ghosting.
And you're not the fifth company trying to reach the candidate. You're the first. So it's just the process. You got to kind of get through that. Okay, I'm not waiting in the ATS until I have a resume. If I see them on Indeed, I text them. I give them the questions. If they respond back, and our technology is set up that if they don't respond back, and set up an interview, we send them a reminder. And then if they don't respond to that one, we send a third reminder. So again, it's all that manual processes that are stacking up that we can't do in parallel causes the delays. And it's just the coolest thing. Having done this for so many years, as you have too, to see the breakthrough of these big gaps that we couldn't solve for, that's what turns me on about 54, starting another startup, is really solving big problems right now.
Very cool. For listeners who want to reach you, where should they go?
So GoHire.com or on LinkedIn. So you can't really miss that one.
That's crazy. Awesome. Jonathan, it has been fun. I look forward to seeing you at an upcoming event.